Hey guys, so I've just unlocked all three of the new Paragon trees. So we have Champion, Warden, and Ranger, and I just wanted to make a quick video talking about them. So first of all, in case you're wondering how I unlocked these three, it's based off defeating the last Reliquary boss. So for Champion, it's unlocked once you defeat the last boss of Inferno 3. Warden, you'll get through defeating the last boss of Inferno 4. Which I did solo in my video. If you want to watch it, I'll have a link in the top right. And lastly, if you defeat the last boss of Inferno 5, you'll get access to Slayer. So this one actually needs quite a substantial amount of CR, and obviously I'm way under the CR, so thankfully one of my warband mates was able to help me clear it. One thing I do recommend, if you have a friend who's able or close to be this CR, then you go with him only as a 2-man or a 3-man at maximum, because the higher number of players are in the raid, the higher the boss scales, HP scales, so it's going to be much harder to kill if there's a lot of players that are under the CR. So if you have a friend and he wants to help a few people, just go in with maximum 2 or 3 people and have a few groups doing it. So an important note which I wanted to mention is that the Rite of Cleansing will actually be permanently altered if you unlock in the higher difficulties. So if you have a look at the wisps in the rewards here, these are actually determined by the highest difficulty you have unlocked at the time. So let's say you go through and clear the last boss of Inferno 5, which unlocks Inferno 6. Going forward, all of your wisps that drop will be Inferno 6 wisps. Now, Inferno 6 is quite a while away, but if you do want to pre-farm for Inferno 6, then probably that would be fine, but if you'd want Inferno 4 wisps, then obviously this isn't ideal. But at the same time, it's kind of a trade-off, because these new trees, they do give quite a bit of damage and life nodes, as you'll see when I go through them. They do give quite a fair bit, so if you do want to utilize any of them or get these extra life and damage nodes, then it is kind of a worthwhile trade-off, I would say. I mean, eventually we will get to Inferno 6, and all of those wisps that you have pre-farmed will be useful. So now let's go ahead and talk about the trees. So first of all, let's talk about the life and damage nodes. So it's quite an insane power creep that they've given us. So you can see Champion here has 35 damage and 40 life nodes. Warden has 35, 35, and Ranger has another 35 and 35. So this is pretty insane, considering that some of the older trees that we have. Let's just have a look at Weaver. Weaver only gives 15 damage nodes and 5 life nodes, and some of these other older trees, I don't know, let's take a look. Mastermind, maybe. This only gives 20 and 20, so it is pretty insane how many life and damage nodes each of these trees gives. And just to reach those life and damage nodes, you're actually filling out most of the tree here, even if you're not using it. So it is worth experimenting with these trees, just to test and see which one you like best. But now I'll just go through all of the nodes one by one and see what I think of them and just give my honest opinion. So first of all, let's have a look at Champion. So Champion is all around defeating enemies and getting kill streaks. So this is kind of a PvP oriented Paragon tree. So the first special node kind of gives you an extra damage boost, 4% more damage, 4% less damage when you fight another player. And I believe this one boosts your Grizzled Veteran, which boosts it to 12% for 10 seconds after defeating a player. So basically this bonus will go to 12% more damage, 12% less damage once you defeat another player, but it only happens, the buff only lasts for 10 seconds. So next we've got Swift Strikes. So for every player you defeat, your attack speed increases by 3%, stacking up to 5 times. So let's say you get a kill streak of 5, this can go up to 15% attack speed, which is pretty insane. This one, which is also kind of insane, probably one of the most insane things, is the 3%. It's kind of the same as this, but it's with crit chance, so you get up to 15% if you have a kill streak of 5, which is pretty nuts. And finally, you have Juggernaut. So what this does is if you get a kill streak of 6, you'll instantly be fully healed, and you'll get an increase in size and 20% increase movement speed. So overall, this tree is actually pretty crazy, especially if you're somebody who can kind of chain together kills, and you can kind of guarantee these kills. So whenever we get trees which give you a damage and crit buff, I always like to compare them to Weaver Tree, which is kind of the gold standard. And I actually know people that used to use Weaver Tree. I actually used to use it a bit when I was Demon Hunter class. Granted, it does make you squishy, but it does give you quite a huge damage and crit bonus. So the damage bonus that Weaver would give you is 15% if you have 15 stacks. So it's 1% per stack, and you can get up to 15 stacks. And it also gives you a 6.5% crit if you're above 10 stacks. But granted, Weaver is a bit harder to activate for some classes because you do need to alternate between your primary attack and your skill damage. So it's not kind of the same comparison, but I would say that the buffs from Champion are even more impressive, but you do have to maintain that kill streak, which might be a bit tough. So because I'm a low resonance, low spender player, I'm not really going to be using this tree in PvP, even though the buffs it gives you are pretty insane. And the reason for that is because in high legend rank, it's not really possible for me to maintain the higher kill streak, just because I'm getting matched with whales quite a lot of the matches. So I guess this is a perfect flex for me just to show off my rank 1 on BG. But basically in this high legend rank, it's really impossible to kind of maintain a really high kill streak. Like if I'm getting 5 kills, it's pretty rare, and I'm usually dead straight after. So maybe if you're super skilled, or if you're playing in some of the more lower ranks in BGs, this tree could be insanely useful. Or if you're somebody who's a very high spender, high resonance, then it could be useful also. But somewhere where I could see myself using this tree would be in the more organized PvP on the server. So things like the Vigil or the Rite of Exile would be extremely useful. So basically, if I know that the fight is going to be more equal footing and the other players are going to be a similar resonance to my bracket, then obviously this would be very useful. In the past, I have got like 20 kills or even 30 kills in the Vigil fights, so this is just kind of a win more Paragon. Like I'd use Gladiator in those scenarios just for the cheat death, but I could see this being insanely useful just to keep the pressure going in those fights. Obviously, this wouldn't be very good in Vault just because you wouldn't get any real kill streak. So now let's move on and take a look at the Warden Tree. So honestly, with the Warden Tree, I kind of wanted to hate it, but the more I play with it, the more I'm kind of in love with it. I mean, it says the more enemies you face, the harder you are to defeat, so it kind of makes you a lot more tankier and a lot more annoying, which I don't really like. I mean, I don't really like other players having it, but when I do use it myself, I do find it is pretty OP. So honestly, I have been kind of switching over to this tree instead of my go-to, which is Gladiator, and it has been pretty crazy. So let's just take a look at the notes here. So the first one is Heavy Armor. For every enemy within 5 meters, it reduces the damage you take by 2%, and it stacks up to 4 times, and enemy players provide 2 stacks. So obviously this is a... this tree is more useful in PvP than it is for PvE. I mean, you could use it for PvE just for the aesthetic, because it does give you some size increase, I think, in one of these. I think it gives you up to 8% size increase, which I'll talk about. But unless you're like a crusader with a horse and you want to kind of look massive on the screen, I wouldn't really recommend using it in PvE. So back to this. So it gives you basically up to 8% damage reduction, I believe. So 2% stacking up to 4 times. And enemy players provide you with 2 stacks. So what that means is that basically all you need is that there needs to be 2 enemies within 5 meters, and you'll have the maximum bonus of this, which is 8% damage reduction, which is pretty crazy. Like, it's a lot easier to get this bonus in PvE than it is in PvP than it is in PvE. So next we have Rugged, which gives you an increased size and maximum life by 5%. Which is fair enough. And then we have Combat Expertise, which basically buffs Rugged and Heavy Armor, and it increases it from 2% to 3%, and Rugged from 5% to 8%. So you get 8% maximum life, 8% size, and this will be 3%, which stacks up to 4 times. So basically what this means is that it's going to give you up to a 12% damage reduction as long as you have 2 players within 5 meters, which is pretty insane. So next we have Combat Tricks. While Heavy Armor is active, which is this one, you'll be able to move freely through enemies, and they have 5% reduced damage. So this is even more damage reduction. So I think this can give you up to 12, and then this is another 5. And I believe this 5% damage reduction will not only help you, but also all of the other players in the game will also benefit from this 5%, because it says that their own damage is going to be reduced by 5% rather than you taking reduced damage. So last but not least is Defender of Sanctuary. So when you're attacked 5 or more times within 3 seconds, you gain an absorb shield equal to 15% of your maximum life. For every enemy within 5 meters, the shield increases by 25%, and enemy players increase the shield by 50%. The shield cannot increase beyond 100% or 30% of your maximum life. Okay, so basically what this means is that with 2 enemy players within 5 meters, you'll have the maximum bonus, I believe, but at the same time, the shield is only 30%. It can only increase up to 30% of your maximum life. So it's pretty nice to have this shield. It's not quite as good as the cheat death effect in the Gladiator tree, but it still is pretty nice when you're in a pinch, and it just to give you that extra bit of survivability. But overall, the damage reduction is just insane in this tree, so I do recommend it definitely if you're a melee class and a class that kind of gets in the middle of everyone. Then you'll have most of these bonuses active all the time. I mean, it only takes 2 players to be close range to you, where you have most of this active here. So if you're Barbarian or Crusader or Blood Knight, definitely I would recommend using this tree. So last but not least is the Ranger tree. You become more deadly the farther you are from your enemies. So this tree, just from the name, obviously sounds perfect for wizard classes and also demon hunter classes that keep range from their enemies. And honestly, the build I thought which would work perfect for this tree is the new Summoner Demon Hunter build, Shout Out Oroth. But basically, this tree just gives you insane bonus, kind of like a Bloody Reach effect the farther you are from enemies, but it might even be better than a Bloody Reach. Let's just go through the nodes really quickly. So you've got Careful Aim. For every meter you are from enemy, your damage against them increases by 2% up to 8%. Okay, so this is pretty nice to have, the damage bonus. And now we have Sharp Eye, so it's kind of the same but with a crit chance. So every meter you are, you can gain up to 8% crit chance. And then we've got Precision, so this makes these two even more insane. So what Precision does is it changes the 2% per meter to 3% per meter. I'm not sure if this cap also increases, but if it does, then that would mean it goes to 12% each, which would be pretty nuts. But even if it doesn't, I mean, that's pretty crazy to have 3% for each meter. And also, lastly, this is the one that kind of makes everything kind of even more crazy. When you perform 3 attacks in a row while Careful Aim and Sharp Eye are at the max bonus, you enter the Killing Blow state for 10 seconds. For the duration, you benefit from the maximum effects of Careful Aim, Sharp Eye, and Lone Wolf. So basically what this means is that if you make 3 attacks where you're at the max range, which would be 4 meters, I guess, to get the max range of this, then you have all of these active at the maximum bonus for 10 seconds, and this happens once every 30 seconds. I'll show that on the target dummy how it works, but let's talk about this last node, which I didn't talk about. Your movement speed is increased by 10% while you have no enemies within 3 meters. So I think this is just to help you get away a bit faster if you're a range class. It's also a pretty nice addition. So let me just switch over to the Ranger tree and have a kind of quick look at this Killing Blow in action. So if I'm really close range to the target dummy, obviously it's not going to activate the Killing Blow bonus because I'm not at max range. To meet the requirement, you have to be at minimum of 4 meters away from the target dummy, and you do 3 attacks at that distance. So just to get a sense of the 4 meters, it's kind of in line with the NPC here. And you have to do 3 attacks, and that will activate your Killing Blow. You'll be able to see it here. So 1, 2, 3, and that's already activated my Killing Blow because of my dots. And you can see that it's lasting for 10 seconds. And even if I'm going closer now, like really up close, I'm still getting the full bonus of this Killing Blow, which would be the 12% damage and crit, I believe, or 8% damage and crit, which is pretty insane that it lasts even if I'm close range to my enemy. And this effect has quite a big uptime. I mean, it lasts for 10 seconds and it can occur once every 30 seconds, which is very, very nice. So I do recommend you kind of using the range tree if you're one of the range classes. The good thing about this tree is that it could also be used in PvE, not just PvP, because it doesn't require anything to do with players to activate. So do give it a go. So the last thing I want to talk about before signing off is how you should spend your points, because I know people are going to ask me about that. So the first thing I usually like to do is I like to max out the life and damage values. So these are the values you're looking for if you max all the life and damage nodes in all of the trees. It's 66 kh health life and 6,800 damage. And the reason I like to do that is because these give a lot more value. So if I reset this tree here, you'll be able to see that the armor value is only giving +4 per node, and it's the same for all of these secondary stats. So potency +4, armor pen +4, resistance also +4, whereas the damage and life gives you an insane amount. So it's +20 per point and +200 per point. And if we just compare this to gems, or you could even compare it to the Sanctum, basically the gems give you 80 life or 8 damage, and each of these secondary stats is also 8. So what the game is basically valuing life and damage is that 8 damage is equal to 8 of any of the other secondary stat, and 80 life is equal to any of the other secondary stat, which shows that the Paragon points, there's kind of this disbalance, like it values like the value you're getting per point here is a lot higher than the value you're getting per point here. So let's just get this back. So if people don't know about this, the best way to use it to get these points back is the quick add function. So let's say I want to get the damage here. I just click the quick add and click up to the damage. You'll see it selects the shortest route, like it could have gone down here, but it didn't because this is the shortest way. I just press OK, and then I press quick add again, and I can press the life and just press OK here. And just like that, I've got the life and damage nodes both maxed out here. So the thing you want to do after you max out your life and damage nodes in all of these trees is you want to look at which tree you actually want to use. So let's say, I don't know, I want to use Gladiator, then obviously then I want to make sure I'm getting these, so I just use quick add again, and let's say I want to get these two, then I would do that next. And just go through all of the trees, select everything you want to use for your dungeons. If you use Weaver, you can use Weaver. But just go through, select all of those, and once you've done both of those things, you'll be left with a few points, and at that point you can kind of look at your secondary stats in your profile and see kind of what you want to maximize for, because each of these are giving +4 in the Paragon tree, so you just want to go through and see what kind of you need more of, or what would be more useful for your build. So because I'm playing more of a damage over time Blood Knight, potency would be really useful for me, or armor pen, but at the same time I don't want these to lack too much. So it's just all about balance and seeing what works best, and you can just go through and select the last few points doing that. But anyway, guys, this video's been going on for a bit longer than I would have liked. Hope you found going through all of these trees useful, and hope it helps you make a decision on which tree you want to use. If you have any questions, then do let me know in the comments below. But I'll be ending this one now. Thank you all very much for watching. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.